Добрый день, уважаемые коллеги.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. We're glad to welcome you at our today's meeting. It is called the Theatre of the Future. It is not by accident that the Gaidar Forum included into its program such a discussion. And this year was announced the Year of the Theatre. It is actually dedicated to the 10th anniversary of the Gaidar Forum, and Russian Seasons with the triumph was launched in Germany, and we welcome Olga Golodets, Deputy Prime Minister, and I'm going to introduce more people, and please give a hand to them because we are in a kind of a theater at the moment. With us are two actresses actually, two managers, Maria Brusnikina, who is also the director of Mikhail Theatre and also manager of Praktika Theatre, and Irina Apeksimova, and very well-known movie star and at the same time director of Taganka Moscow Theatre. With us also is Evgeny Mironov, arts director of the Public Theatre of Nations, Dmitry Bertman from Helikon-Opera Music Theatre, and Grigory Zaslavsky, rector of the Moscow Institute of the Theatre Arts. I have the privilege of moderating the discussion, but I would like to precede our discussion with the following. Certainly we're going to discuss everything related not only to how the future should look like, but also what the theatre of the present is. And I said that this is not only the directors or arts directors who are present on the panel, people who are in charge of the creativity and of the household issues of the theaters. It would cause more problems because I was starting from the arts or художественный theater. The cash box and the stage were always contradicting one another, and therefore Dmitry Danchenko and Stanislavsky were debating that among them. Creative people are usually doing arts, and arts, in contrast to the politics, this is the art of something impossible, and management, this is the art of possible, of things necessary. We're going to speak not only about the arts, but as far as we are at the Gaidar Forum, we'll speak about management, what prevents the theater from development, and it's being discussed everywhere in the mass media. Mr. Medvedev, in his presentation, compared the current economy and doing business with making scrambled eggs, which requires certain sequences of actions, and it is well known that everyone starts breaking or crushing ice their own way, and there is no tool which is called eggs breaker, which should be a must for every cafe or every restaurant. And sadly, a lot has been done in order to streamline all the procedures. A lot has been done thanks to Ms. Golodets, but this is a topic which has to be discussed. And since January 18th, a theatre marathon would start from the city of Vladivostok. And saying that, I'm passing the floor to Deputy Prime Minister and President of the Year of the Theatre, Ms. Golodets. Ms. Shvydkoy, thank you so much. I can feel that the atmosphere is very much different, unlike the one at other sessions. Because when we're speaking about the theater, still we're speaking about some humanitarian components of the society's development. We're speaking about certain values pertinent to our society, and it is not limited only to the economic view of the theater. That's why we have such a composition of the panel. I'm grateful to the organizers of the Gaidar Forum that we started speaking about the country's development not only from the economic standpoint, but we're speaking about values and humanitarian positions too. Mr. Shvydkoy has already said that this year we are celebrating the year of the theater, the attempt to draw the attention to such a component as the theater. This is our special privilege. Why? I'm convinced that the economy and figures prove that, showcase that Russia is not a leader, but in terms of culture, we remain a leader. Our art is accepted everywhere. Our culture is considered to be a top one. Our travel shows are very much demanded for everywhere. And the fact that the Cultural Forum in St. Petersburg gathers a lot of spectators and visitors, which are bigger number than the one of economic nature. That's a fact, and the Cultural Forum received 35,000 people, and it exists only for 6 years, and actually we didn't understand why there is such a big demand for it. Speaking about the Cultural Forum, we are spending money which is very much less than the one we spent on economic forums, but we receive all the top figures. If, for instance, we're starting discussing the arts education, then the directors of all the arts academies would arrive. If we speak about choreography, then it is never the case that any masters of choreography would be left behind. And the forum also builds a new cultural environment. There are a lot of brand new cultural agreements which we signed. This is a step forward to develop new products, new shows, new performances in the area of arts and culture. And for us, it is very important to look inside the country. The Year of the Theater is aimed at making theater affordable and accessible to everyone. Make them affordable, accessible, understandable for our school students, for our rank-and-file people. We see a unique phenomenon, growth in the number of visitors to all the places of culture. Last year, according to the preliminary estimates, the number of people who visited exhibitions in Russia amounted to 140 million, and 40 million spectators visited theater shows. This is an unprecedented figure. We have never had such a number of visitors even during the Soviet times, when the number of the population was 2 times more. I think it was more than 250 million, if I remember that figure correctly. And such a demand for, such a need, such a lust for culture, for arts, now necessitates a new dialogue. It sets new requirements to all of us who are sitting here. The ones who are dealing with their arts and culture. In Russia, we have 349 theaters. Most of shows are staged in big cities such as Moscow, St. Pete, Ekaterinburg, Perm, Novosibirsk. And our main objective is to expand the geographical scope a little bit. We are guided by the decree of the President of the Russian Federation, who put forward an objective to create 4 new cultural centers. Just like the Academy of Sciences was set up in Novosibirsk, now it has become a very serious scientific and R&D center. With the same token, we believe that there will be new centers of gravity to be set up, such as Vladivostok, Kaliningrad, and another industrial center as Kemerovo. This geographical scope, this geography will influence very well the regional spectrum of our culture. The year of the theater, this is a big challenge, and during the year of the theater, and it was the idea of the organizing committee, was to host two major events which we do hope will attract the attention of the spectators. The first one is the Theater Olympics, when we're going to host representatives from 34 countries of the world, and St. Petersburg will see a big festival dedicated to different festivals. Therefore, the theater professionals will have a chance to get acquainted, to make friends, and develop this theater spectrum on a new level. Another initiative was about a theater marathon to create a new cultural phenomenon in Russia. Will start on January 18th. All my crew, all my team will go to Vladivostok tomorrow, and Primorye stage of Mariinsky Theater will launch the theater marathon. Vladivostok and Primorye will be the very first region to start this big event. It will engage different teams, crews from Primorye on all the regions of the Far West. And then this theater marathon will propagate onto the rest of Russia. It is very important for us to address this marathon to everyone, to the kids, to the youth, to the elderly. The main idea is to show the very best we have among our theater shows, that this year of the theater contributes to the development of culture in Russia. This is it, probably. Thank you so much. I do think that we will give an opportunity to Ms. Golodets to answer your questions as far as I know. You will have to leave at 12:30, so we'll pass the floor to next speakers, and after we'll get back to Q&A questions which Ms. Golodets will take. Present here are certainly our Moscow colleagues, heads of Moscow theaters. Naturally, Moscow and St. Petersburg are not the only theaters which do exist in Russia. There are a lot of economic questions to address, and for 2 days, Russia, the economic issues are as important as the creative issues. A simple example, the ticket prices in Omsk, for instance, range between 300 rubles and 700 rubles. And for instance, in Moscow Vachtangovo Theater, let alone Nations Theater, the prices may reach the figure of 7,000. In the Nations Theater, the price may be as high as 10,000 rubles. And this is not by accident, so I leave certain extreme prices for December shows, but this deals with the consumer capacity and the economy of the region, to what extent a theater may be independent from the state, because if the ticket prices range from something to 10 or 15,000 rubles, then at a certain moment the theater may say, thank you, but no longer we are going to host any contests or any tenders to buy shoe laces, and we're going to be totally independent, etc. But if you cannot set the price higher than 300 rubles or 700 rubles, never you will be capable of denying the aid of the state. And we are living in a socially driven state. This is enshrined in our constitution, and that's why the state has to provide support to the culture. And for instance, the Nations Theater, when it goes to some travel shows, or if Helikon theater goes on a tour to the regions, they have to carry 2 trucks full of the props in order to provide an equal service as they would stage this show in Moscow. So, Evgeny Mironov, you take the floor. You work a lot with regions, meaning that you stage a lot of shows, and we will follow your steps. We'll go to Tyumen and Tobolsk, and you also host the festival of drama theaters in small cities. This is also quite important when Moscow spectators see that the theater life is relevant not only for Moscow. So, Mr. Mironov, I will not name all your titles, so everything is quite clear. Thank you so much, Mr. Shvydkoy. You have touched upon the question of relations between the theater and the state, dependence or independence. I do believe that this is the lucky dependence which gives us an opportunity to develop. If we speak about the price policy, that such prices do exist, and actually we are second only to the Bolshoi theater, which may appoint such high prices, and probably this problem would be issued because these are the scalpers who are moving the prices up, and we are not independent in the sense, we are not free in the sense that we have to deal more with the creativity. It means that not always we have to take the lead of the spectators. In most cases, we will not take the lead of the spectators, as Juvenal in the ancient Rome said, we need bread and entertainment, and in Russia we have another opportunity. Having 349 theaters in Russia, we can deal only with the creativity, so it means that we cannot be financially independent from the state, so it means, and we're happy that 40 million spectators came to the theater shows, but at a certain period of time we have to stop. It is a big danger to be mindful only of the figures. We may lose the quality. Cinema and theater are 2 different sisters, although they look alike, and in the theater, in the cinema, actually, we have to take the stake which used to belong to the American movies, and sometimes quality may suffer, but in the theater we cannot afford such luxury. As was said, theater, this is a kind of a chair, kind of a faculty, and the spectator should take away something from your show, probably something not very pleasant, not something easy to digest, probably this would be a wrong thing he would opt for. Probably he came to the show just to have a rest, to relax, whereas you keep him strained, but in the nation's theater we're dealing with lots of things. According to the structure, probably this is the only theater. We don't have our own team, our own crew, so there are visiting directors, and they do casting on their own, and they may invite actors from other cities, so this is a total freedom. Working with the spectators, and for that we opened a new space in the theater, means that we cannot cheat the spectator. They should understand what show they're going to see, and not always it would be an easy to comprehend. And every director would bring his or her own style, his or her own traditions. The spectators could get prepared for the show they're going to see, and this is why sometime prior to the first night, to the premiere, we try to arrange for some meetings between the spectators and the directors, some seminars, so that the spectators will be free to choose whether to see that show or not. But still, we have more time to be creative, because the maturity on bringing up of the spectators, speaking about the very serious and very sharp things, is clearly crucial. In the theater of the future, when I was coming here, actually I was thinking how multifaceted this notion is. There are a lot of components, and we see a synthesis of drama, opera, and the theater in one pot, and that's great that we see drama and documentary theater working at the same time. So what worries you and what concerns us is being put on the stage, and therefore we have a big advantage compared to the cinema, because, for instance, a script for a movie may be written for 2 years and it no longer be relevant, whereas in the theater actually we can stage a performance within 40 days. Maria Brusnikina may confirm that quite recently we had a graduation show called I'm Not Afraid, or I'm Not Scared. This is about violence. Many of that lads, guys, actually came across on the internet interviews of people who were raped or who were abused somehow, and following that they made this show a Remini protocol. I think quite relevant. And Remini protocol, this is a well-known team. They staged a show about a war, how a war can be relevant for us, for me. So every day someone is killed, a lot of people are killed, and it becomes not so relevant, it becomes rather flat, and they made a state-of-the-art method to portray that. So they built in a room as big as this one, different pavilions, different rooms, smaller rooms, and I, as a spectator, become a part of a long chain which has to do with the war. So first of all, I act as a worker at a plant which produces a weapon, and I, Evgeny, Mironov, I just put on overalls, and there is a meeting somewhere there, and understand what parts of the process I'm responsible for. So I moved to the next room, and that's Deutsche Bank, and a deal is being discussed how this weapon would be delivered to the front, and then I moved to the next room, and I'm speaking about rank and file spectators. I become a resident of South African Republic, so I live in a foster family, and then I'm in a hospital, present at the surgery to a lady, a young girl, who actually got exploded by a landmine which was produced at the plant, and we all are responsible for her injury, for her killing. I'm speaking about new methods, or for instance, therapy theater. Nations Theater does that a lot. I'm the founder of the charity foundation and artist. And our theater employs lots of artists who have their own charity funds. Chulpan Hematova, Rapoport, Peresil, so working with a lot of charity foundations. And we keep thinking that theater now may be seen as a therapy. For instance, I was approached by a foundation which is dedicated to deaf and blind, and they asked what we can do together. So I said, what we can do together, and I thought, why not? So we sent a team of directors, theater directors, to some village, and they started this problem. This is an enormous problem, and I'm not very familiar with that. I never...
Знаете, как овощей, слепоглухие, которые не видят и не слышат, а при этом удивительный внутренний мир, потому что они пишут стихи. Некоторые из них в советское время был поставлен такой эксперимент вот с людьми вот, с такими сложностями. И там один даже человек стал кандидатом наук. У них есть уникальные возможности, хотя они только чувствуют, ну, только обоняние и осязание. И мы открыли мир, мы поставили спектакль «Прикасаемый». Он уже объехал много, в том числе он был в Петербурге на экономическом форуме. И в спектакле участвуют и слепоглухие артисты, и артисты театра нации. И кто из них, кто вначале вообще понять невозможно. Это удивительная терапия. И не только для тех, кто вот, не слышит и не видит, но и для зрителей в зрительном зале, потому что они понимают, что мир один, Бог один, простите, и то, что мы все существуем, мы должны быть вместе друг с другом. И так далее и тому подобное. Простите, что я так долго отвлекаюсь. Я просто говорю про разные формы. И что сегодня, на самом деле, учитывая, что у нас 349 театров, и из них большинство это театры малых городов, я очень благодарен, например, и Государственной Думе, и Ольге Юрьевне, и правительству, какое внимание оказывается театрам малых городов, где сидит Лена Носова, куратор театра нации по малым городам, потому что там процесс намного сложнее, там спектакли должны выпускаться чаще, потому что зрителей в городе, естественно, мало, они посмотрели спектакль, должны идти дальше, они тоже думают о кассовом успехе, и есть, безусловно, из Министерства культуры какие-то, так сказать, показания, как нужно себя, но тем не менее, то, что сейчас так поддерживает этот театр, есть грант, серьезная поддержка их на техническое переоснащение, дает им возможность еще и оставлять деньги для творчества.
The Theater of the Nations is not the only one, but also it hosts the festivity of the theaters, so it means that small cities in Russia are so numerous, because in the United States, for instance, there are no drama theaters, and in Europe there are several, but they have different support systems. So I'm speaking so long, but still I cannot understand what I was actually heading to. So I congratulate you on the year of the theater. Thank you. And since Roosevelt, the United States had a program of developing theaters outside New York and Washington. This is a separate topic. But still, theater as a live art is in demand not only because it is not just a place of entertainment, but this is a place of spiritual development. For instance, 34 years ago, we embarked on a project to bring up children, the youth, and the project revealed that children who visit theater 4 or 5 times a year, so they become more successful in mathematics and in literature and in everything else because they develop their creative skills.
Evgeny has been speaking about such forms of theater which develop the human being, help to concentrate, to etc. And it is very important because theater nowadays exists in the context of television, internet, cinema, etc. And this changes its perception. But it used to be the only institution that reflected, in the 19th century, it was the only institution, as well as in antiquity, it was the only institution which reflected people's feelings and concerns. And now people, of course, come to the theater still somewhat spoiled by the internet surfing or surfing over TV channels. But still, I like to think that the theater is very important nowadays. Now I'll give the floor to our next speaker. I do not want to repeat things that have been already said, but I would like to say that if the theater is allowed to develop in all directions, it will be very diverse. And documentary theater is just one cell of the big organism of modern theater, and inside it there are also very diverse things. And Evgeny has spoken about that theater on violence, and the reaction of the chair was very surprising. It didn't want to accept it. Perhaps we more support the traditional theater, and there is the question on the agenda: if the theater is keeping up with the modern requirements of society. I think it should not just be keeping up with them, but it should provide some new things. Some people regard modern theater as some deviant young people who write some stupid texts about dirty and horrible things. But this is a reflection of concerns of society, and of course it would be wrong not to hear them. And some people already begin to say that yes, we do need modern drama, and all such new theaters they exist. Thanks to this enthusiasms of enthusiasts. But there is no state support. But of course, there is also some presidential grant for just one area which is supported. But on the fact spectators say that it is not so bad. And why do they think that modern drama is bad? It's horrible. I think it is imposed. An imposed opinion. They are made scared over something new. And we must, of course, perhaps not struggle, but not fight, but we should go on working so as to make people accept new things. We must make people accept new things. Modern drama at the level of institutions and educational institutions, even in teaching, modern drama ends with Rozov, Volodin, and Petrushevsky. Over 10 years, the latest 10 years, we have had some 10 diploma works on the drama of Pavel by Pavel Pleshko. But yes, that's wonderful, but there are too few schools, too few opportunities for modern playwrights to be educated. Well, there are some in Yekaterinburg and St. Petersburg, but that's all. But there are so many young playwrights. Many people are writing. Polinovich, for example, he comes from Yekaterinburg. There are people who write plays, but there is no state support for them. Not as much as I would like to see, no. And I also wanted to say that as I work with young people all the time, I have an idea. Of course, all those young people are different. But once I asked young actors, not students, but already young actors, and I asked them, what can you young people be proud of? And they thought for a long time, and they said, we are proud of our culture, our great Russian literature, and our victory in the Great Patriotic War. And so young people said that. So I want to say that culture is part of things that they are proud of. So here I end. Thank you. Now I will give the floor to Grigory Anatolievich, and after that to Irina and Dmitry. I wanted to say that as you have a possibility to talk to people from the government, I wanted to talk about one subject. The Ministry of Culture has prepared a package of very serious amendments to laws regarding theater. The theater And a lot has been done over the latest years, and culture is no longer regarded as part of the social sphere. It is no longer part of the sphere of services as it used to be over the latest 15 years. For a long time, culture was regarded something in between funerary parlors and hairdressers. It was just a service. And now there is understanding that culture is no longer just a service, but something else. But the economic aspect is very much connected with the limitations. So, Grigory Zaslavsky, I would like to ask your opinion on this. So you can win allies here and go on. I wanted to speak more about the Gittes Actors University, because when we talk about the theater of future, well, Olga has has spoken about the theater marathon, and as this marathon starts on the 18th of January and will continue for a whole year, well, from the point of view of our day, that is the 16th of January, it is also the theater of future. So we are educating young people in our university, because if we want theaters to have our theaters headed by experienced, wonderful directors of 85 years, so our graduates will be heads of theaters in 2083. So they will be working for the theater in the 20th, 30th, 2020s, 2030s, and 2080s. And so no other industry educates its future generations for such a long time. And when I began my work, I thought that I needed crazy ideas. One of the crazy ideas was the laboratory of the future of the theater. And last year, supported by the Volnaya Delo Foundation by Oleg Deripaska, we made it so it has a creative program, and we have already made our first 2 studies, and I even have brought them here. And the first idea was quite easy, quite simple, sorry. We have mentioned already how many theaters there are in Russia, but these are the Russia which are state-funded. But Marina has mentioned Nikolai Gaidar, but who is now making a tour of Moscow. But it's a private theater. The Theater Dog Theater and the Quartet E Theater, all these are private theaters, and nobody counts them. And thus we don't know how many spectators go to theaters. There are more than 40 million. It means that we don't know what the repertoire is, and so we have made a study. And so we see that besides the state-funded theaters, whose spectators are all counted, so Medvedev asked the Minister of Culture, Avdeyev, how many people go to the theater? And it was said 30 million. And the President said, that's a good electorate. So it's an audience which should be cultivated. And so Gaidar's theater and other private theaters are much more important for the country than we tend to believe. And there are much more people who go to theaters, perhaps not 40 million, but 60 million. And this is a much bigger segment of our culture economy. Having studied today's theater goers, we say that most of them are middle-aged women. Yes, women, but the biggest theater-going category is a woman of 35 to 40 years old. So it is a young. So our theater-goers are younger. And we have also learned that out of those people who have first came to the theater before they were 6, they are 2/3 of regular theater goers. Those who were not brought to the theater before 6, they unfortunately become theater goers much more seldom, unfortunately. Yesterday I spoke to Nikolai Kolyeda. He gave me a freshly printed book, and the play was described as such a frightening play. And I asked him, why do we need such plays? And then I stopped myself. I switched on my inner sensor and said that Leo Tolstoy, who is called the grandfather of the Russian theater in the 19th theater, wrote a play based on a real criminal case, wrote a play which was immediately prohibited, The Power of Darkness, it is called. It was prohibited for all over the 30 years. And we must reconcile to the fact that every new generation brings some very unpleasant truth with it to the theater, and it's also part of theater, but of course not necessarily all the theater must talk to us about the horrors of our present-day life. Thank you very much. You haven't forgotten the Moscow Musical Theater. The Moscow Musical Theater. Yes, of course it's. We are also a private theater. Irina Apeksimova, the director of Moscow Theater in Taganka. So, my friends, we have talked about many things. We all talk mostly about things which we are doing ourselves, and I think I should base my presentation on the theater in Taganka, where I work for 3 years, and it's wonderful that the theater is no longer regarded as service, because we cannot live like that. We have laws according to which we have to provide a number of shows, a number of spectators, but the art must not be assessed by the criterion of money earned by tickets sold. There are shows to which tickets must be sold from 1,500 to 8,000 or 10,000 rubles. And there are shows to which tickets cannot be sold more expensive than 500 rubles. And that depends not on the popularity of a show, of a play, but on its subject, on its value, or what we want to inculcate in our spectators. The spectators are three generations of theater goers. Those who were born in 1963 to 1983, those who were brought by parents to theaters, who were forced by their schools to go to the theater. The Y generation are those who were born from 1894 to the year 2000 or something. During that years, many people simply forgot about the theater, and the Z generation who started to go to the theater, they don't understand what it is. They have no authoritative figures. The X generation has the names of great directors or playwrights, and the young people do not understand it. So for them, the theater is like a minefield, and our theater in Taganka is fighting for this young generation. We stage a lot of shows and projects. For 6 years, we have been conducting an open-air festival in the Hermitage Garden, mostly on the Feast of Moscow. It is a marathon of theater shows, among the best, which have been the best of what has been shown, something which can be shown in open air, which do not some special lighting or acoustics. So we fight there for people who have never opened a theater's door. We try to explain that the theater is not scary. It is a big problem for people who work in that Hermitage Garden. Of course, it is much more pleasant to work in the limited Italian box of the theater when you have good lighting and when you have well-behaved spectators. And here it is, everything is free of charge, and if you don't like the show, you just go away. So it is very difficult for actors and for people for directors. But some people after such shows come back to the theater. And then the biggest problem starts not to lose the person who has come to the theater. It is very important to bring the information to the potential spectator, because in the past we had the theater magazine. I don't know if it still exists, but it's no longer as widely read. In every newspaper there was a section dedicated to culture, saying which shows must be seen. So the taste of the audience was developed, and now we have the internet, and you can read a reaction by some chance person who has seen a show, who liked it or disliked it, and you might react accordingly. So it is very difficult now to educate the tastes. It is a big problem for those people who can explain in a few words what you must see. And now the Department of Culture and Department of Education of Moscow have started a program of bringing school children to the theater, of making the theater popular with the school children. But it depends not so much on theaters, but on teachers, on how the teachers tell the school children which shows are to be seen, and how they will give them an opportunity to see what they might like. Well, and the last thing I would like to say is that the state support is necessary. We need money from the state. I have my own private theater in parallel to being the head of a state-run theater. It is necessary to experiment, and we can experiment only on the money provided with the money provided by the state. So the subject which comes up in this conversation is that many theaters, the biggest, the most serious ones, have conversations with the spectators. They explain to the spectators what the spectators have just seen, and it's necessary because now people cannot concentrate. So before, to get the spectator, you need to hit him on the head so as to bring him out of his thoughts about his office or his home. And, you know, people do not understand modern art. People do not understand the language of modern art. People do not understand what the actors want to tell them. And they find it difficult to concentrate. So, Dmitry, Bertman, we would like now to hear you. First of all, I would like to say that, Mikhail Yefimovich, you said that it's very good that you speak like you do, because you speak about respect for the culture, and it is so necessary. It's a God's theater of the future. You know, Alexander Pokrovsky, a great opera director, said that the opera would be the art of the future, and everybody laughed at him because they thought that it was an art for some elderly fuddy-duddies, and now we are living in the 21st century, and I think that everyone here in this audience, even those who hate opera, can say, knows who Anna Netrebko is, knows that our opera singers are touring the world, knows that opera shows are broadcast in cinemas and it is difficult to buy tickets to them. A very interesting process is taking place. Just let's imagine that Valery Alexandrovich Kirbet, the Bolshoi Theater, our theater, Helikon-Opera, stop going abroad. It would destroy our ambassadorial activities because we represent our country and we do not see any sanctioned products as regards ourselves. We are a bridge connecting, even at such difficult political times. Culture can sometimes do much more than politics. We have had such experiences when we had, for example, very bad relations with Estonia, for example. We have made a concert in the National Theatre of Estonia, a duet which was called a duo of two of the capitals, and we, together with our Estonian colleagues, we made a concert attended by the authorities of both countries, and it ended into a fraternization of the whole audience. It was after the incident of the bronze soldier, and everything calmed down. So the theater can do unique things, the theater of the future. I believe that musical theater, opera, musical shows, the ballet, is the theater of the future in reality. The language of music is universal. People cry and laugh at the same points in Japan, in Korea, in Amsterdam, in London, in France, in Russia, without knowing the language of the show. Music is a divine language granted to the elect to understand. And to become a member of the elect, you need, of course, family education and a chance. Now there is an unpleasant process about musical schools in the press. Some people say that musical schools are not necessary in such great numbers, that conservators cannot absorb people. so many people. And that's bad, because people do not understand that people attend musical schools not to become professional musicians and prize winners, but to become a businessman and understand the harmony. And I'm myself and Grigory to professional musicians. It doesn't mean that I play the piano professionally, but I can read an opera from off the page. So I think that musical theater is the theater of the future. As for the economic aspect, and here there are people who are heads of theaters, and I know that there should be different forms. There should be heads of theaters, administrative heads. There should be artistic heads. I created my theater. It was in 1990 when Gaidar conducted all his reforms. I am so in a way contemporary of my country. I tried various forms. You know, music allows you to think more clearly and to concentrate. Well, when the situation in the country was horrible and people did not go to the theater because it was dangerous to venture into the street, I finished the Gettys Theater University, and I could find no job because there was the Bolshoi Theater, the Stanislavski Theater, the Perm Theater, the Ekaterinburg Theater, and there were no jobs. And so 5 of us set up our own little theater. And it has gone through a long history. A great number of people helped us. And when people say, "You are wonderful," I say that it's not me who is wonderful, but a great number of friends. And you know, functionaries who worked at that time and who are no longer in power, but we continue to be friends and even more friends than when they were functioning. So these people made a lot. I had various heads of the theater. I took them from various spheres. They worked for a long time. And finally, I became the head of my theater myself, because for many people, the theater of the future is future. And for my theater is my present, my life, 99.9% of my life. And I do not want to deprive anyone of his life. If I, but if I do not deprive a person of his life, so that he would pay as would work as much as I do, I'm available at 3 o'clock in the morning, at 5 o'clock in the morning, at any time of the day or night, just like Mr. Gergiev. So I had to learn all the laws in practice. I had to go through Law 44, and I had to learn to live with the laws, because going to demonstrations is, of course, interesting, but you need to. But I have no time for that. Yesterday, I had a meeting with a very important Japanese company which produces great stage equipment, which is no longer used, which is not yet used in Russia, and which costs a lot. And I met this representative and I asked with him, and he said, "Well, we have a distributor of our firm who works in Moscow, but it costs a lot, and I'm ready to give this equipment to you, but I cannot do it free of charge because it is impossible. But we will assume the self-cost of the electronics schemes, but it will be."
The tender which we're going to announce actually cannot show that figure, because otherwise it would just block the access for other bidders. And following Law 44, not only that this company is the only one which produces this equipment, the tender will not take place because they will not have any competitors. Or I have to buy following the Law 233, and if the state is going to pay for that, it will pay 300 million. So this is an absurd situation. This is an absurd situation, and we have to move it somehow in future, but it's very difficult. Different laws are being adopted, and actually the patrons of art law has been passed, but it will not be enforceable, because the profit, the banks cannot do that, because the proceeds, the profits will either be hidden, not disclosed, and so it is not possible to make this law work. So we rely only on the public subsidies. What people spoke about, this is about the public subsidies. This is the only thing which may help the theater survive. When we speak about the number of tickets sold, number of spectators, attendance, etc., well, actually, we are fully sold out throughout the year. Our tickets are very expensive, but we can earn only 20% of what we are selling. 20% of what we need, meaning that 80% of our costs are covered by the state. And 80%, this is what we get from the state. That's very difficult, and I do think that... Dmitry, you have to wrap up. I think that for the state, this is also quite important. So come to our theater, and you will see that with your own eyes. Thank you so much. I suggest that we start Q&A, and please questions to Ms. Golodets. And as for the state actually is concerned, we will discuss that once Ms. Golodets leaves. Yes, please, but please introduce yourself.
Вот, пожалуйста, там есть вопрос. Ну, давайте. Громче.
Good afternoon, and wherever can I start speaking louder, that if not in the theater. So I'm from a volunteer youth organization which works with difficult teenagers, and the spectators are also from among the difficult teenagers. We used as practice for many years, and we see that the difficult teenagers actually will not come to the theater. We will come only to watch the actors of the same nature. So these are the questions. Please don't present your projects. What's the question about? Okay. You said that the teenagers will come only with their parents. Is there any tool to make teenagers come without their parents? Because, for instance, in our case, this is a rank-and-file case. We have difficult teenagers both on the stage and outside that. So the volunteer projects, can they get some special treatment in order to host their free-of-charge performances? Yes, we have such a practice. Very often I see it that our theaters, along with the volunteer movement, would set up certain shows where performances prior to the New Year. The number of such shows was more than a dozen. So welcome to the theater. We're ready to support you. Thank you. My name is Yuri Pahomov. I didn't plan to come here, and I came here by accident, but I'm so glad that I can hear you. I promise it will have some consequences. I have a question to Ms. Golodets. and to everyone else. I heard that there are lots of experiments being held, some hybrid ideas. Have you ever heard or even wanted to make a hybrid of theater and engineering, R&D or science or technique? Have you ever thought about anything like that? To mix those things? Who will take this question? So in my theater we have a director called Robert Lepage. This is an outstanding director, and he works with new technologies. Screens are being used and other technical means are being used. And he is using state-of-the-art technologies, the latest engineering ideas. His best show is being staged in Vegas. It's called K, so it doesn't mean that this is the only way to take advantage of the technologies. And Stanislavski actually said that you just have to have a competent two actors, and that's it. Now, speaking about engineering and new technologies are not going to be helpful to stage new shows, but this is not the only thing. Thank you. More questions? No more questions. Yes, please. Yes, please. Pass the floor over there. My name is Zotova Polina. I'm from Special View, or Специальный взгляд newspapers. We are providing translation, Tiflo commenting for deaf. So will it be supported by the public subsidies? Yes, we are providing public subsidies, and if you don't enjoy that, please turn to us, because a lot of money is being allocated to that. So, and we are supportive of those programs.
Evgeny
Mikhailenko, I have the following question. People who the funding is dependent on. There are two models which were advised. Will not allow theaters to survive because it's very difficult to gather more spectators for such shows. But when actually the state starts funding certain ideas, certain projects, we see the results. We are all spectators at the same time. And the junk shows which we see sometimes on TV, public TVs, those awful reality shows, often awful quality movies. When you look at those products, so to say, so you immediately think of people just spending money because they have this money. What do you think? Probably it would be more reasonable to launch a co-funding model, meaning that a person who does something will have to invest his own money and would be interested to make his product popular, but some part would be co-funded by the state. So in that case, all the parties would be interested. Otherwise, we'll see what we are seeing at the moment, and that's a disaster in essence. I don't say that this is the only case. We have this co-funding model already, so we're living by the co-funding. What's been said, 80% is being paid by the state and 20% is paid by us. Is covered by us. But at the same time, we try to find money wherever we have to pay to the singers and to the artists so that they do not live abroad. If we continue to work with the culture the way we do that now, we'll lose a whole generation. You are speaking about TV. Yes, but TV, this is a continuation of the music. When was the last time you visited the theater? Quite a while. So what was speaking about?
мы говорим о том, что влияет на всю
We are
страну
speaking
не
that
люди
it
на
will
одном
affect the
конкретном
whole
концерте,
country.
а то, что видят миллионы,
What
десятки, сотни
millions and
миллионов человек.
dozens of millions of people will see on TV. Thank you so
Спасибо
much.
большое. Это отдельная тема.
Михаил Ефимович, ну вот что касается софинансирования, то когда вот
As concerns co-funding model, at the expert council dedicated to the year of the theater, we addressed the problem of how to support this or that event. And we said that the regions have to co-fund that, and they have to invite more money, meaning that the state will not invest into the project which it has to fund 100%.
Пожалуйста, вопросы есть? Да, пожалуйста, прошу вас. Сейчас вам дадут
More
микрофон.
questions, please. Take the mic.
Пожалуйста, да, тогда сначала...
Good afternoon, I'm a teacher, Larisa Rzhevskaya. I would like to answer the question asked by Irina Apeksimova, so I did not, whatever I explained to my children, but if I do that wrong way, actually, they will not go to the theater, but if I do a genius explanation, then they will go there in flocks. Ms. Golodets. Now, this is Philharmonia number 2. Old shows, old performances, old operas are attended by lots of people. Probably you can do the same. Leo Durov said that before we had aristocrats from among the actors, then we came as the people from the rank and file, and now these are the actors who just graduated from the vocational schools. So let us be aristocrats, so let us something which would elevate people, not that they are depressed. When was the last time you saw Hamlet on TV? All the time we see the day in January and other pop folk movies. And I remember that when I was a child, I saw my parents watching the same movie several times. And I saw that that's a battle between good and bad. And I remember Hamlet through all my life. So let us launch such a project.
Одну секундочку, можно я за Ирину, за свою коллегу сразу?
Let me stand up for Irina. Well, unfortunately, I have to excuse myself, but I'm very grateful for this question for our project Philharmonia number 2, because I do believe that this is a very special project. Let me state openly, sometimes people say that we have to bring that team there, and Philharmonia number 2, this is where it is almost impossible to buy tickets to. So the subscribers' subscriptions to there for a year's time are sold out immediately, and now we propagate this project all around Russia. All over Russia, we are seen as a cultural capital, as a cultural leader, and listen to lots of orchestras, and that's a big difference when we hear the orchestra from Mariinsky Theater 285 times. This is how many times Mariinsky Theater went on tours within 2 years. You have to bear in mind abroad, and they made 1,385 shows abroad, not abroad, but in Russia. So this is how the top-notch team works. And when you hear how Tchaikovsky is being played by our orchestra, and some other very well-known foreign orchestra, you'll see this big gap between our performers and other ones. And the same is true of other areas of culture. And this level of culture, this unique performance excellence, the spectators who would come to the conservatory, who would come to Tchaikovsky Music Hall, to some other halls, famous and non-famous one, all around Russia. And once I was late for Novosibirsky Trans-Siberian Festival inauguration, and then Vladimir Repin, one of the violin players, a famous one, invited me to come to the province. And when I saw that in that provincial theater, all the seats are occupied, and there are children sitting everywhere, on the steps, on the folding chairs, so they brought here just to hear that. This is how you pass over a kind of a cultural code. This is our upbringing. Our culture has always been very revolutionary, very progressive. Diaghilev, more than 100 years ago, staged shows and performances which were shocking to everyone. No one understood Stravinsky. No one accepted Firebird Ballet. And now this is a textbook performance which is being staged every now and then. Every time we see something new, we can make our spectators happy with those performances. Quite recently, Sofia Gubaidulina's show was staged. It was quite impressive, but for instance, 60 years ago, it would be shocking. And now it is accepted very well. It is received very well. And our art, our culture is built the way that this is a top-notch of always moving forward, but in order to move forward all the time, continuously, as we study Pushkin, Tolstoy, Chekhov at school, the same is true of here. We have to understand that in the theater, in the culture, we are responsible for keeping this our cultural code, that Tchaikovsky is being played, that Glinka is being played, Rimsky-Korsakov has been played, that our performances are staged, that we raise more nice voices, raise more new orchestras, that we could have very knowledgeable spectators or listeners. I totally agree that in order to make a person feel at ease in the cultural environment, he or she has to attend those performances, those shows since early age. And I do think that the Year of the Theatre will contribute to that, and with your help we will manage to promote that even more. And as far as most of you are educators, I would like to draw attention to one project. We didn't speak about that. So the Ministry of Culture announced a contest on a new concept of education in culture. This is a totally open contest. And should you have any ideas, I like the question about the combination of engineering and culture. So on the crossroads of different professions, we may generate a lot of interesting and tremendous things. Should you make your own contribution, should you provide your own concepts, your own vision, that would be very helpful to our Russian culture. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Golodets. Thank you for your participation. Well, we have several minutes, and should you have any questions to any of the panelists, or any questions or any comments, one more question and we'll finish, if you don't mind. Good afternoon, my name is Yaroslav Orlov. I'm a frequent goer to the theaters in Moscow. And my question is about censorship. When the modern theaters, in order to attract Z generation, spectators try to show not very decent shows with lots of tabooed words or something like that. Is the state ready to introduce censorship, to censor movies and shows, so that it doesn't happen that in several years you will not come to the theater to see some classic performance, you will see some modern culture which is totally alien to you. You as directors, are you ready for such censorship? Are you ready to follow the fashion? Thank you so much. while asking the directors of the theaters about censorship. It is how to ask a Grand Prince about his attitude towards Great October Revolution. But if the directors are ready to answer the question whether they like censorship or not, and how they are going to fight against tabooed words. So my name is Zhenya Mironov. Well, when I was coming to that meeting, I thought about 3 or 4 things which have to be kept in mind by all the directors. Not to be mindful only of the figures of the quantity, and sometimes I'm very preoccupied by the standards which are set for the theaters by the indicators, because we can lose the quality. We have to somehow be opposite to the commercial approach. So commercial approach is good, but art and theater has to deal with a man. So theater has to be honest and direct, and it would hook the young generation, kids. And the third thing is that we have to counter the dead templates under the guise of classic approach. This is a lie. This is wishful thinking. So young directors without any censorship can exist. And this is a real value proposed by Perestroika. They can express their viewpoint. And you're speaking about certain things which are totally immoral, and the artist is responsible for that. But I don't think that the spectators will have their say, so they will decide what to attend, what not to attend. And sometimes the modernism is being regarded as something indecent. So if it is a new theater, so it means that you'll see some sexual organs there, or naked bodies there. Stanislavski and Nemirovich thought about their own theater, and they became pathbreakers. They proposed reforms, and that split the spectators into 2 camps. Part of the spectators were booing, and part were applauding. Chekhov, actually, became famous in the building of the Nation's Theater. He wrote a play called Ivanov, and he used a very innovative method, fighting against himself, trying to show the protagonist, the anti-protagonist, a person who is very depressive, who is in conflict with his God, tries to survive. And so there has never been such a protagonist, and it was a failure. What Ms. Golodets said, and this was Solzhenitsyn who said that. Today you take pride in that, and before you would scold it. The whole avant-garde history attests to that. So Dostoevsky was forbidden to be studied at school. And now this is the virtue which we have. This is our freedom, but you have to know how to deal with that. But your son would be very grateful to you, or your daughter will be very grateful to you if you're honest with her. Not always classics should be shown the way it was shown 100 years ago. They will not attend this performance any longer because it was a lie. So the old-style museums do not develop us and our arts, and we're speaking about the theater of the future. Thank you so much. Dmitry? No? A few words about Hamlet. We still have 5 minutes. Hamlet, this is actually an example of something top-notch, but in Hamlet everyone is killed, and we perceive that as a norm, not as a criminal show, and everyone is dressed in costumes, but following the narrative, actually. So that's awful, that's very criminal. Any comments now? Irina? Gregory, no. Questions? Yes, please. Please, yes, please. I'm Vice President of the Russian Association of Crypto Industry, and it would be a very quick question. So we're speaking about digitalization and VR. There is a blockchain platform which draws money for charity. So what would be the relation between the theater and the virtual reality? Thank you so much, colleagues. I'm dealing with that for 2 years already. And we started with making live broadcasting through an application on smartphones, through goggles. It's a very difficult story, and we need a lot of money for that in order to have very good cameras. Taganka Theater works with VR technologies very closely. We will try to implement a project, and should you have certain opportunities, there will be a performance show which would be staged simultaneously in several cities of Russia, with the same casting, and the artists would stage the show at the same time in Ekaterinburg, Vladivostok, and Moscow. So the performance would start at the same time, and the artists would communicate to one another thanks to VR. Thank you. More questions, Dmitry? I interrupted you, so please. Okay. Gregory? So, okay, one more question, please. Okay, ladies first, as far as we are following the gender equality. Good afternoon. I enjoyed very much the discussion. And I have a question to Eugen. You mentioned that you are concerned about the quality. What quality criteria you have in mind? Thank you. Frankly speaking, so the last item was about rating on the agenda. So what rating is about? So will it damage the theater? So I do not understand who can assess the work of the theater. Is it the spectator then following what criteria? That would be very funny. Funny or dull or boring. So what criteria you are using? Especially when we're speaking about culture. And we're speaking about an honest product. I'm always speaking about the honesty. You have to be honest to yourself. And I, as a director, see performance as a kind of confession. It's a confession about what worries me. And it's very difficult to assess this product because the audience may be very diverse. We speak about our peers, our colleagues, experts. This is also not very objective. This would be very subjective. And probably time will decide the quality. So what about Van Hoek's quality? So Marina Brusnikina staged a performance where Bertman plays music and I'm reading verses. 6 months after his death, Van Gogh was considered as a genius, but when he was still alive, he was a loser. So probably it needs time to decide who is who. I'm speaking about, for me it's about honesty. And it would be determined by a person's attitude towards business, towards his matter at his cause, and you have to be professional. And the quality, this is to what extent an artist is professional, to what extent he is honest. And the final question, please. Yes, you already took the floor. You're a teacher. So, however, a kitten is sincere, maybe, so a kitten may say only meow. Okay. That's not the question, but rather an answer to the question about the connection between arts and technologies. I'm from St. Petersburg and had nothing to do with the theater. So we have an experimental stage theater in St. Petersburg. There is a performance where new technologies are used not to move the stage faster, but to express senses better. So I invite you to that experimental stage. You will see all those new technologies that are in action. And one more thing. So there will be a scientific conference in the Modern Arts Theater. So everything is following the schedule. Thank you so much. I'm grateful to everyone. There is a problem, which we have not touched upon because 90 minutes is not enough. But unlike fine arts or music, which will be survived by notes, the theater lives only now and today. Nothing is left. Even if you record the show, the performance, it will be totally different than what used to be the theater. So there are legends about the theater, so critics are writing about the theater, but theater has one strategy. It is related to the words of Pushkin, who said that this is the audience which determines the quality of the theater. So the theater depends on the quality of the audience which attends the shows. It depends on the society, on how mature the minds there are. And you have to invest a lot of efforts in order to expand the art contrary probably to the expectations of the audience. And this is a special mission of the artists. This is a very difficult process, and even genius sometimes fail to understand what was going on. Let me remind you, my colleagues know that for sure, that when Mali Theater received Ostrovsky's plays, National Genius, and another National Genius, Mikhail Shevkin, who was brought up by Pushkin and Gogol, he said, what it is, this is a smell of merchants' boots, this is totally impossible. He couldn't stand Ostrovsky until he died. Only in 1963 he played one role in that performance, and that's it. When we speak about the future of the theater, we're speaking about the future of the society. We speak about how the society is going to look like, who will impose the pricing policy, who will be in charge of the tastes of the children at school. These are two different difficult processes, which unfortunately are addressed not by economic means, unfortunately. I'm grateful to everyone who participated in our panel. We detach them from their theaters, and I do think that they enjoyed that. So these are two different words. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.